Welcome to the Biz Coach Show. In every episode, we share information and advice for small business owners, small business leaders, startups, and entrepreneurs preparing to launch their business. Our mission is to give entrepreneurs the edge they need to succeed. If you're in need of business coaching, head over to mybizcoaches.co and book your free coaching consultation today. The Biz Coach Show is presented by Eric Whitmoyer, the owner of My Biz Coaches, a business coach, serial entrepreneur, author, and speaker, as well as David Macon, a certified professional in talent development, growth expert, writer, and small business strategist. Well, hey, Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, David?
I am doing awesome. Always good to hang out with you and talk all things business. Thank you for joining us on the show. To our audience out there, if you have not been following us, we've been working through a series, which is actually based on a series of articles that Eric has been writing in his newsletter. If you're not currently subscribed to those, we definitely encourage you to check it out. Scan the QR code. They're published on LinkedIn. Really easy to check out, digest, a lot of great tips and information. So definitely make sure you sign up for those. But there are 8 topics that we're working through. And it's all about important trends to look out for in the new year in 2024. And today we're going to be talking about health and wellness. So Eric, I think just to kind of kick things off, of all the things you could have picked as one of the 8 trends to watch, you picked health and wellness. So tell us a bit about why you picked it and why small business owners should be thinking about it and watching that trend in the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this really kind of stems from one, you've got the combination of what happened during COVID. A lot of people became very conscious of their health, probably more so than they ever have in the past. And ironically, I think what we typically would see is people of my age start thinking about, you get somewhere around 50. As you get closer to 50, you start thinking more and more about your health. And, typically that's when enough bad things have happened to you. You're like, I should probably take a little bit, spend a little more care. But I think what happened was, particularly with COVID, is it dramatically influenced people's perspectives. I need to really pay attention to this more. Anyway, so that in conjunction with the Great Resignation, people are taking into consideration, what are the most important things to me, but what is really very relevant to me as I look for a new employer, as I consider, my work-life balance, health and wellness is getting more and more attention. Now, a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that you have an aging population, particularly the baby boomers, and then myself in the whatever category I'm in, Gen X. Yeah. But yeah, but those two categories, we're very well aware of our health and we're getting to that point where we're trying to balance career and our health and make sure that we're going to live as long as we can possibly live at this point. But so anyway, I think but I think the added piece that I was trying to get to with the COVID piece is that younger people are also paying attention to that now, more so than I'm certain that I did. For certain, I know for a fact that I didn't think about it. I was pretty convinced that I was invincible and that nothing would ever go wrong. Might have something to do with my personality. Okay, I'll admit that. But that aside, I think that ironically, younger people are thinking more about, and I think they're more health conscious in general. I know my daughter did a stretch in the fitness industry, for a period of time. She was competing as a fitness competitor, and she came away with that. She did a period of time. I think she did a year where she went vegan. And, and considered other circumstances like that because she was very well aware of her health. And I think we see more and more of that in younger people today. And certainly we did, like I said, when I was that age.
Yeah, I think one of the things you see too, right, is Gen Z in particular, their mindset is, I'm not going to sacrifice my health and wellness for an employer, right? And I think that's a very prominent sentiment in kind of this new demographic that's really taken over the workforce, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, and I think to that point, to answer your question fully, that's something that employers really need to be considering because that is something that people are looking for. They're very well aware of what they're looking for specifically, and what kind of. It's not just about having healthcare anymore. It's right. What other health and wellness programs do you have that are available? Because that's important to me now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a great intro to the topic. I know that in your article, you had some great key points about health and wellness and kind of things that business owners should be thinking about. So you want to share a few of those with our audience?
Yeah, so the first one is just enhanced productivity. It's one of the significant benefits of offering a health and wellness program for the business owner. Right? A lot of this is written from the perspective of the business owner, is the fact that you get enhanced productivity. Healthy employees don't get sick as often, right? They don't take extended time off. One of the things that it'd be interesting, I haven't done any research or studies on this, but the prevalence of smoking when I was a kid was all over. It was in to smoke. Now it is not in to smoke anymore. The fact that we can't smoke anywhere. Right?
And now it's vaping, unfortunately. But.
Well, yeah, vaping. Yeah, good point. But I would be extremely interested to see how many issues that smoking created doesn't exist in whatever population, wherever that transition took place, right? I'd be remiss to try and speak to that. But my point is, my bet is if you dug into that, you get some pretty good, interesting data to kind of demonstrate how many people are not missing work because of smoking related sicknesses or health imbalances or whatever it might be, right? So, but in general, there's a lot more about healthy employees or productive employees. They don't miss time, they don't take as much time off, and so there's a lot of factors there that kind of play into that. Another one is the boosted morale. What they find is in the studies that they did, a workplace that prioritizes employee well-being fosters a positive and supportive culture, and that the health and wellness programs demonstrate a commitment to overall happiness to the team and boosting overall morale and job satisfaction. And I think I have some statistics, a little further down, but it's really, really impactful in that regard. People are I'll save it for the statistics because I'm pretty sure what it references is that the number of people, or percentage of job happiness, or percentage of job happiness versus or related to health and wellness programs.
Yeah.
Reduced healthcare costs, obviously, from a business owner perspective, healthcare is very expensive to be able to offer that. And so anything you can do to reduce that is substantial as well. And then some of the statistics that I referenced. So more than half of the Gen Z and millennials consider wellness programs important or extremely important when looking for a job. So if you're employing entry-level people at any point it's that's your category of entry level is going to be Gen Zs predominantly, and to a lesser degree, maybe millennials, but that's not only, it's either important or extremely important when they're looking for a job. So that in itself says something. Next, you have the 67% of employees who work for organizations with wellness programs like their jobs more, and they are just as likely to recommend the company to other people.
Yeah, that's important, right?
Yeah. That was the statistic I was referencing earlier, and that's actually pretty significant to your point. You're talking like 2/3 of employees are willing to refer because of the wellness program.
Yeah, but it's important for recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. The cost of voluntary turnover due to burnout is 15 to 20% of payroll budgets each year.
Wow. Yeah,
that right there says a lot. I mean,
up to 20%. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah. Now, that's a whole nother conversation, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
Burnout in general, I think, is an overused term, in my opinion. Yeah. And I think actually it referenced some pieces I read some in preparing that article. There was some other information that I reviewed. But as a matter of fact, in this next one, employees are 2 times as likely to report having experienced a lot of gratitude the previous day, and about 40% less likely to report having experienced a lot less stress, worry, and sadness. So, it's like I feel valued, I feel appreciated, right? These are important words in the Gen Z and millennial vocabulary. Words that, in my day, if I thought it, I never said it. Right. I'm certain that I thought it, but it wasn't prevalent in the workplace the way that it is today. But it is very significant now. And it's something that employers have got to consider. And health and wellness programs play a valued part in that, making the employee feel valued, feel appreciated. Right. And consequently, when you say 2 times less likely to report having experienced I feel better. Yeah. Right. And it's not just because my boss said, I'm doing a good job, like that. There's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah. No, I think, great point. I think it's interesting, right? If you look back, let's say 30, 40 years ago, right? Health and wellness was, well, I'm not endangering my employees, like that was what was considered
Right.
health and wellness. And then it became, you know,
Exactly.
yeah, and now it's become a little bit more like, hey, we have a positive workplace and we have benefits, right? Okay, cool. And then I think what's progressing now is there's an expectation that I'm allowed to take time for my physical health, but I think really it's transitioned almost more to psychological health, right? And my overall mental wellness. And I think that's something that, to your point, 30, 40 years ago, if people even thought it certainly wasn't talked about openly. There weren't, programs in place for employee mental health and hotlines and things like there are now. And I think that's been a really big shift and probably will continue to be a big shift in the new year.
Absolutely.
So awesome. Well, as we're kind of going through this, Eric, I know you've got some thoughts and tips for small business owners that are thinking about, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I care about my people. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be well. Certainly, you pointed out they're going to benefit from that too, the business owner, right? When it's a win-win, when it happens the right way. So how does a small business owner, approach this and maybe integrate a health and wellness initiative into their business?
Yeah, great point. So a great question. So assessment and customization is a big one. So one, take the time to understand from your people what's important to them, right? What are the things that they're looking for? And this is going to be representative of the people that the type of people you employ in regards to like if you have a lot of entry level positions, like in retail, right? It's a great example. Where in retail you got a lot of 20-year-old kids. Well, what's important to them, right? That's going to be different than if you had a more senior seasoned staff of people that are in their 30s and 40s. They're all raising kids at that point, right? So now it's they've got a different need. They've got a different assessment and what they're looking for in the health and wellness. Likely they want to be able to spend more time with their kids. Well, how about a work from home, 1 day a week thing? Does that give me the flexibility? Those types of things are considerations that they factor in. So they recommend conducting surveys and consultations to identify areas of interest and potential health concerns that people have, and then tailor your program around that. Another one is education and awareness, just making your employees aware of the different programs that are available. I think one of the things that I recognized, if I look back over the years, there was a lot of stuff that was available that I didn't take advantage of because there wasn't somebody making me aware of what was available.
Right. Yeah.
Matter of fact, if I go back and I look at my time in the military, and I was in for about 8 years in the reserves, and there were a number of different programs that were available to us. And I remember somebody very specific, he'd been in for 20 some odd years or something like that. And he's like, look, there are tons and tons of programs. He goes, but nobody's going to tell you about them. You have to go and do the research to find the information. He goes, right. So, the reality is if you don't go do the research, you won't ever find out about some of these programs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like anybody was hiding this. It's just nobody took the time to share that information. So as an employer, make a conscious effort to provide that information and make it available to your employees so they know what's available to them. Because often if you don't, they don't, right? It's perception is reality.
Yeah.
If I feel like there's nothing available, then it probably isn't anything available, right?
Right.
And reality is that somebody takes the time to show me, I'm like, oh, wow, there's tons of things here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and things like nutrition, exercise, mental health, these are all really important categories that need to be considered and be factored in. Flexible wellness initiatives recognize the diversity of your workforce and offer a range of wellness activities. So again, what's important to the people working for you, and then include things like fitness challenges and mindfulness sessions and health screenings would be another big one. I get around the age of 50, you start thinking about, okay, well, should I worry about this? Am I concerned about this? It's whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, or any of these types of things that people might be concerned about. Having a health screening is a relatively a cost-effective way to uncover something that could be potentially very impactful to an employee and ultimately then to the employer. So, but it's relatively inexpensive. And if you coordinate it through the insurance company or something like that, they could come in and do a health screening. And the cost per person. I mean, I paid for it out of my own pocket. And I want to say I paid for a full-blown blood workup and everything like that was less than $200.
Yeah.
What a great way to invest in your employees and say, hey, we're providing this through our health, and you could probably, offset the cost of that. And you're showing that you care about your employees, right? That's a big piece of that. And it's something that's probably important to a large percentage of your employees, depending on what your age group and everything.
Well, talk about word of mouth on that, right? I mean, that's something that people are going to talk about at their barbecue on the weekend is, hey, yeah, the owner of our company, we had a morning where, we didn't have to work. They brought in somebody that did health screenings. He paid for the whole thing. Like, I've never had anybody do that before. And also like, well, where do you work? I want to learn more about that, right? Yeah. It's that kind of stuff that over time really builds goodwill toward you as the owner and your business.
Yeah, and great word, goodwill, right? It's like the owners actually going above and beyond and demonstrating the interest in their employees. And as a small business owner, you're going to have a lot of small business owners, I can't really afford that. And I'm like, yes, I understand it's an investment, but let me ask you, how much more value do you think your employees feel to make a $200 investment in each of your employees? You got 20 employees, it's going to cost you $4,000.
Yeah, you do it once a year. I mean, it's not huge. Yeah.
Hell, you could do it once every 2 years for that matter. Yeah. Right. Most of the stuff, as long as you're testing once every year or two, that's all it's necessary to really uncover something in advance enough that it doesn't become a stage 4 issue or stage whatever issue. Right. Yeah. And you catch it early enough, and it's relatively easy to deal with most of these things.
Yeah, you're right.
Next one would be incorporate technology. There's tons of apps that you can utilize that would do, a lot of this, reference briefly fitness, exercise routines and things like that. How about an inexpensive app that the company compensates for? I mean, you could buy an exercise app. I'm trying to think the one that I use. I think it's like $69 for the year.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, anybody that wants it will subsidize the cost if you'd like to incorporate that, right? And not everybody will use it. That's fine, but give it to the people that are interested in it and what an added benefit. And if your people are consistently working out or exercising on a regular basis, guess what? You're going to reduce the number of people that are actually getting sick, right?
Yeah. Or give an option, right? Hey, there's a physical fitness app, or you could do an annual Headspace subscription for your mental health. Right?
There you go. Absolutely.
I have choice in my health and wellness. And that's an added benefit on top of it, right? Because now I have the flexibility to choose.
Yeah. And that's another big one is the flexibility to actual choose, right? That's the customization of that. And there were some other ones, talking about health tracking tools, sleep tools. My iPhone, I use a sleep tool that tracks how well I sleep or didn't sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I pay $25 a year, $24.99 a year or something like that for that app.
Yeah.
Again, I'm paying for it. I'm self-employed. I'm paying for it. But if an employer paid for that, I'll do that. Right. Yeah. So there are things like that. The next one is leadership support and participation. It's like, and this is leadership 101, right? If you're going to offer it, encourage it from the top down.
Yeah.
Right. Have the leadership. And this from our previous employer, right? When we did the fitness challenges.
I was just thinking about that actually. Yeah.
I mean, the owners of the company were some of the biggest contributors on those fitness challenges that we did.
Right.
There was a guy, Jay Meyer he was probably like the king of
Yeah, you wanted to be on his team because he was a whole team's worth of
Iron Man. Exactly. Yeah, he did an Iron Man leg by himself every day, right? It's like when and the best part was it wasn't just my individual competition for myself, me against me, but there's also these team competitions, and we would win prizes and things like that. What a great way to incorporate. And again, the owners took part in this, right? So it was leadership, support, and participation, right?
Yeah.
The next one is celebrate success and progress, right? So have some kind of and that was the other thing that we did with those fitness challenges. The owners recognized people who won, right? Not just, I think we even did some like weekend getaways or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Cool stuff.
Pretty substantial payoffs, right? I mean, think about a weekend getaway to, a local, hotel for 2 nights or something like that. And a few $100, maybe $1,000 investment and we had 1,500 employees, right? I think we started doing it. We were probably in the 600 or 800 employee range, but not a significant investment. And then we did some shirts and hats and bottles, things like that, but meaningful, right? And so that got engagement. And then the seventh one, so just talk about weight loss and physical activity. And so kind of weight loss is another great one. So just exercising would be one. Weight loss in and of itself, who's the biggest loser, right? What a great analogy there to try and leverage this scenario like that. And then the next one was consider offering development training courses. So when I was doing my research, one of the things that I noticed, lots of stuff about the physical component of it. What I didn't notice, and one of the things I'm a huge advocate of, is personal development.
Right. Yep.
I know that my fitness goals accelerated when I was also training my brain at the same time.
Yeah.
And side note, there's tons of apps for brain training. I'm trying to think of the word teaser games and stuff like that, but more specifically, what I'm referencing is leadership development. Reading books, doing a book of the month club, stuff like that. Another way, with all of the dementia and early set on Alzheimer's and things like that, training the brain and challenging the brain to do things and from a functional perspective that we often don't do after a certain age, which usually seems to be around 25 years old. We stop challenging ourselves and learning new skills very often. So what a great way to reinforce that with people. And it could very much be around professional skill sets. So for instance, David, hey, you have an interest in marketing. If you wanted to take some additional courses in marketing, I'll go ahead and pay for those.
Yeah.
We've done some research and we found some programs. Actually, at our previous employer, we had a similar program. I can't remember the name of it now.
Yeah, I think it was lynda.com.
Lynda.com. There you go. That was it. And you could take courses on bookkeeping. You could take courses on I couldn't even tell you all the different things. I'm sure there was a number of other, but a lot of professional based programs. Like you can even determine which ones you wanted to reinforce and which ones you may not. But there's many people that are taking online courses anymore these days. What a great way to engage people on another level and stimulate their brains as well as their physicality, right? And we also know the science proves that people that are stimulating their brains are actually healthier physically.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a direct correlation to the mental health as well as, because you're constantly challenging yourself. You're thinking through challenges and issues and problems. And so they demonstrate better skill sets in the workforce. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's a number of different great ways to do that, and I think that whether the professional training skills or things that you can incorporate that would help them develop a new skill, right? So, and like I said, even leadership would be a great way. Challenging people to read, right? That's a whole skill set that's probably lost on many of the younger people. But how can, even if it was an audiobook, new context of information allows them to grow. And then programs that would provide you to develop skills, but also encourage employees to invest in themselves to become better for themselves, right? Whatever that looks like. For instance, first time having a child, right? There are programs for that, right? There's hey, we noticed you're having a child. Right? There's how many good employees did we lose to mothers having a child for the first time because of stress and the anxiety of having a child and trying to deal with, I'm going back to work while I have a young child, how to manage through that. I mean, there's a lot of things that would be valuable for those people. As you progress throughout your career, thinking about, what could I do with myself as I transition, right? There's different scenarios there. And I think one of the things that we often don't think about which is another big one, is people with aged parents.
Yeah, true.
How to manage that. I mean, it's health and wellness, right? I am concerned about, about my story with my wife and her mother with dementia and the challenges that she had. Luckily or unluckily, depending on how I look at it, a lot of this played out during COVID while we were work from home. But, with my wife and her work habits and my work habits and the amount of time that we're working and putting time into our careers and businesses, that's a whole nother challenge. How do you manage somebody who's got dementia and needs full-time care? Right. So, and that's actually becoming a bigger and bigger issue for companies. People want to be able to work from home so they can help with that. How are ways that we could address that?
Right. Yeah.
So lots of things fall under health and wellness that a lot of people haven't considered in the past. And I think that's one of the key things for us to really kind of incorporate into this whole strategy is how can what are the things that are important to my team? What would be, and it's a simple assessment, literally. send out an email. So it could be a Survey Monkey kind of thing that you send out and say, hey, what are some of the concerns you have? What would you like to see? And then do your research and figure out, okay, these are the things we can deliver on. These are the things we're willing to contribute to. And, an incremental cost of X, it's a perception again. If it really costs the company, let's say on an annualized basis, $1,500 per employee.
Yeah.
Right. The perceived value to the employee is probably 3x that.
Yeah. I'd say.
Right.
Least,
right? Yeah. So, and I think that these, small businesses play a pivotal role in the economic landscape, and investing in their employees' well-being is a huge value add that big companies typically do already. And so to be competitive in the small business landscape, to be able to compete for that same talent, these are things, we've talked about this with remote work and things like that. These are things that small business owners have got to consider if they want to be able to recruit that top tier talent. Right. And so this is why, again, this is why I bring it full circle, why I believe that the health and wellness programs of these small companies are so important.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great topic, Eric. Any other thoughts on health and wellness before we wrap up today?
No, I think we got it good.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Anything going on at My Biz Coaches that you want to talk about?
So we have an event coming up next week, a week from today, I believe. Yeah. But on the 8th at 10 a.m. Arizona time, Mountain Standard Time, we're conducting a 2-hour workshop on how to strategically build your business plan for 2024.
Awesome.
So, and just in time, you have 3 weeks to put all your plan together and get yourself ready to introduce and roll out your business plan for 2024. Most importantly, we'll be incorporating the 8 different topics that I've been writing about, as I recommend as the key things that you should be incorporating into your 2024 business plan. So you kind of get the whole package all brought together for you.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, definitely check it out. Free event, right? Like you said, December 8th, 10 a.m. Mountain. So super cool.
Yes, sir. Yep. You can find it on the LinkedIn.
Awesome. And if you're looking for the last couple articles in this series, again, head over to LinkedIn. Make sure you subscribe to Eric's newsletter. He's going to be putting those out, and that'll coincide with the event, along with a lot of other awesome strategic planning stuff. So definitely check it out. Eric, as always, great hanging out with you. And if you don't already follow and subscribe to our show, definitely make sure you do that. We talk about business stuff like this every single week, so don't miss out on future episodes. And Eric, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, David.
See ya.
Bye.